Welcome back, YouTubers. This is Two Wheel Rider, and I thought we'd do. This is a bit of a revisit for me. So I shot this video back in October last year as a test for when I was starting to put the channel together, and I think the quality is good enough that we could use it. And there's some nice stuff on here. But now that I've ridden the Triumph 400X Scrambler, I thought it was really useful to do a comparison between the two bikes because this is really the competition for the Triumph. I know people think that the comparison been made with the new Himalayan, but the Himalayan's more of an adventure ready bike, and the Scrambler isn't, and it's more aimed in this category, I suppose you could say. But yeah, so I thought I'd do the review on this bike and the comparisons I've found with the Triumph. First thing about the Himalayan, and it is comparable to the Triumph in as much as they're very simple bikes, and I'll show you in a minute the reasons for that. But it's a very simple, easy to maintain motorbike. It has nothing on here that you can't really do at home, and most bikes which are made for the Indian market are built on that basis because the Indians like to do the home servicing. It makes life very, very cheap. You'll see around here, I'll show you the points where you can service the bike. You've got the oil filler screw there, or bolt, whatever you want to call it. So it's not, you don't have to take anything off. You don't have to take the belly pan off, anything like that you do on some other bikes, which makes life very, very easy. This has only got the side stand on. I think you can get the center stand for the Scram for most Indian bikes, but that makes it very easy to pour out because it's on the side of the stand, so the bike is leaning that way. What you have on the other side of the bike is the oil filter, and again, there's no removal or anything. It's just that cover there with the three bolts that takes the oil filter out. There's a little spring there. You need to make sure you catch hold of that and put it back together. So that's really, really handy on a bike like this, and I think it's very similar to the Triumph. I think it would be as easy as this. I think another point about the Enfield though, where it may score slightly over the Triumph, is the color options. Enfield are not shy about putting lots of color options on their bikes, and I think that gives people a lot of choice. And they do paint their bikes well. The Scrams tend to be in a matte satin finish, and these sort of two colorways. You got this, you got the red. I think there's a black and stuff. So they really are nice color schemes on there on the Scram. Again, which is different to the Himalayan, which this bike is obviously based on. You have those strange sort of tank guards which sit proud. Um, I don't know whether they're actually much used. They are pretty solid, and I think they would protect the tank if you fell over. But I actually like that styling. I think it's really good. I like the black wheels in particular, and it's got the red accents on the rims, which matches the tank. And that's a really really nice feature. You also notice the exhaust, which is very similar to the Triumph. What you also got on here is the tripper nav on here, single clock as well. I'm not a huge lover of the tripper nav. It does work, but it's can be a little bit slow to react or gives you the information when you're actually on top of your turning. I think it's something if you get used to it, it'll work really, really well, but I'm not a great lover of it. But it does work as a nice clock, which is a bit of an expensive clock, isn't it, on there? But it is a quality item, and the interface is quite nice, and the graphics are pretty good on it. Obviously, what we have with the new Himalayan as that comes out, and the Scram will take on that platform, I believe. There have been some shots of the new Scram in sort of testing, if you like, out on the streets in India. And once you get that engine in here, the 450 engine, the Sherpa engine, I think this would be a really formidable package. Um, and that's will really compete with the Triumph because the Triumph engine is head over heels better than this. Although I do like this engine, it's a little bit lazy. I suppose it's the gearing's a little bit lower. You have to work at it. If when you get to a hill, you are always dropping down, or certainly I am. In the Triumph, there was no requirement for that. You could stick it in sixth gear and you could pull up any hill, anything from sort of 40 miles an hour upwards. This, you need to drop a cog. But like anything, you get used to it. And I find on the roads around here, this is a really, really nice powered bike for the little twisty roads, which we'll go on in a bit because we are going to take this for the ride. I will warn you though, this is an early video, so we do have some music. It's French music, but it is music. But I have put some audio of my comments as I've been going around on the ride. So I hope you enjoy that. Also, what you'll find is it's a nice sunny day, so it might make you remember what it was like in the summer, because I remember it being about 28 degrees this day in October. We're in the sort of southwest of France. This is the Dordogne. Um, we're in a town called Brantôme, which is just a delight, and it's a biker's heaven. We get a lot of bikers here at the weekend, which is great, and they park in front of the Abbey. As we go through the channel through this year, I'll do a lot more videos from Brantôme and with this bike, and hopefully I might be able to test a few bikes. There's a very good Enfield dealer in Périgueux, and this is where this bike came from. So I'll be looking forward to bringing some videos from that. I think if you put the two bikes side by side, if you had the Triumph and this side by side, where would you put your money? I think at this point the Triumph would take it purely on the engine alone. The styles of the Triumph are great. I mean, I love the scrambler look, but that engine just pulls it into a different league, I think, against this bike. But in quality terms, I don't think there's that much difference. I think when you look around this bike and you sit on it and you ride it, it feels like a quality item. There's no sloppiness or slack in anything. It feels like a really rugged, well-built machine. And that's always your first impression, is it? Does it feel right? And this does. I think it really does hold itself well against the Triumph. And they're not dissimilar in price. But we'll get on to the ride, and I'll speak to you in a sec. Get this little baby out on the road. There's going to be a lot of wind noise because there's no screen on this, so we do the best we can. But here we go, out on the Scram. Okay, usual thing. I always like the dasher, the needle points around like that. Always quite exciting that something's going to happen. Okay. Okay. It's a quiet Wednesday. So it's lunchtime, and as usual there's nobody on the French road, so we'll go off and have a little ride around, shall we? Good. So certainly with the when I'm comparing this to the Triumph, is the similarity in the suspension. Now I know the suspension setup slightly different on the Triumph because it's got the inverted forks or upside down forks, but the actual general feel isn't that different. I would say that the Triumph has the edge on it, but both bikes actually ride really nicely through the suspension. The rear suspension on this, I would say, would probably bottom out a little bit easier than the Triumph, but you can set the preload on both those bikes. But I always notice this, even though the French roads are really, really nice, this is a really comfy bike to ride. Certainly in terms of saddle and ride position. What both bikes do suffer from a little bit, in my eyes, is the lack of screen. even a small, well, I always call them bikini screens, but just a little flycatcher screens would make a difference. And I put them on most of my bikes because it protects the gauges and the clocks, particularly if you get caught in a downpour. I know these clocks and things are waterproof, but I always think it's really nice if you got that extra bit of protection. And even little bikini screens, they do, fly screens do protect you from the wind a little bit. It's really sad. When I watch this video now, I realise how lovely and warm it was out in October. It was probably the nicest time to be there. Autumn in France is a lovely time, particularly this region. The roads are quiet. It's warm. You don't need a thick jacket on. But it's yeah, it really makes you remember what I remember this day very, very well as I was riding along. Another comparison with the two bikes was how stable they are, particularly at slow speed. You know, when you're having that little sort of dribble up to a roundabout or a junction, there's no wobble on the bike. When you have large bikes, I know I've mentioned this before, Africa Twin and bikes like that, they are very stable, those bikes, but when you're at slow speed, they're so heavy, particularly if you've got a pillion on. That pillion moves their head around a little bit or whatever, you really know about it. But these two bikes are incredibly stable for slow riding, which obviously makes them a real bonus when you are off-road and you're on some of those rather bumpy tracks that you play around on. Scram is also very nice in the twisties. The steering's nice. You never want steering which is too light or too quick. I always think that can catch you out a little bit, but this is very progressive steering on here. And this near where my house is here, they've got some amazing little roads which are really twisty, and you can see the twist coming up for about a mile. And you set yourself up, and it's really rather exciting. The Scram is really happy around the 50-55 mile an hour mark, which is similar to the Triumph, but what the Triumph gives you is that ability just to open the throttle a bit and get past cars or get past whatever you need to, where the Scram you've got to drop a cog and to be able to just to push on that a little bit better. But both bikes are lovely on the twisties, and it was a shame when I had the Triumph that it was such a grim, horrible, wet day. The roads were wet and muddy. When you come out into these sort of areas, and the roads are actually really good. They're quite coarse, I would say, but they're not bumpy to any great degree, mainly because nobody ever drives on them. So both bikes handle well. The tyres on the Triumph, I would say, are better than what's on the Enfield. You have Metras on the Triumph. They are the Seats on the Enfield, and I think they use the Seat brand on quite a few of their bikes, Enfield, but they're certainly adequate. And unless you were really having a road race, I don't think you need to think more than this. It hardly ever rains in Brandtommen in this area, so I've not tried it out too much in the wet. But in the dry, they're fabulous tyres. One of the great problems of, and it is a good problem I suppose, of riding this part of France is distractions. You're always looking around. There's so much to see. There's always something going on, but it's so peaceful, and you do get a full sense of security because you think, well, there's no cars, you don't have to worry, and then one will catch you out a little bit. Because on these sorts of roads, you also get people going out for a Sunday drive, and they are enjoying the lack of traffic, the same as you. So a few corners get cut here and there. So you do have to be on your toes a little bit when riding your bike in France. You almost feel like some of these little villages are abandoned, but there are people around somewhere. You never see them, but they are around. This is the little town of Bordeaux, and it's based around the chateau, which is up on the hill, which we'll go past in a minute. But roads get a little bit bumpy here, but the Scram handles the bumps really well, and you don't get that, which is similar to the Triumph. You don't get that bouncing around and jarring through your wrists, which can be really annoying. I know some of my bikes, particularly, strange enough, Bonnevilles, a lot of the Bonnevilles I've had, can be really jarring with their suspension, and I don't know why they have to be that hard. I really don't. They Bonnevilles are not really for racing around, they're just for really enjoying a ride, and they can just be a little bit over harsh on the suspension. But the Scram and certainly the Triumph were fabulous on these on that sort of road, and didn't give me any worries at all. So we're going back up into Bordeaux now. You'll notice the lovely rock formations. This is a river valley, and this is where the river would have been. To the left is the actual where the river is now, but it does flood up occasionally, and at the end of last year the river really did flood and broke its banks. So I always have to get to call my little French lady who comes and looks after the house and say, have we gone underwater yet? We didn't. What I noticed when you come up through this town, you can obviously you just poodle through the towns, but what you can do on the Scram, and you notice how low the gearing is, you can go down to second gear to go through these sort of areas, and that's something you don't need to do with the Triumph. I could probably still be in fifth on the Triumph at this point and be quite happy at that. The engine's more than happy. This you need to drop down a gear, but that's one of the joys, isn't it, of riding motorbikes, is the gear changing. I've used the DCT gearbox, and I do miss that ability to change gear, because you like that sound, that change in tone, and it gives you a really good feeling. I think it's one of the joys of riding motorbikes. But the gearbox is very good on the Scram. Enfield gearboxes are generally pretty good. From the bikes I've had, I did have the Himalayan when it came out back in 2018, and the gearbox was lovely when I first got it, and then it got a little bit more clunky, and I think that's just a characteristic of those gearboxes. So as I draw this little video up to an end, I thought I'd nip into the village of Bordeaux and see if I can get some views from the locals that live in this area, and see what they think about the bike, and I'll catch up with you after we've done that. So enjoy the next little bit of video. Right, well, I thought we'd see if we can get views of some of the locals in this lovely little French town we stopped in, and see what they think about the bike. Monsieur, what are your views on the Himalayan Scram? Parfait, superbe moto. Right, well that's enough of that, really, isn't it? Thanks very much, and I'll see if I can find somebody else. Oh, we can grab the opinion of this this gentleman's just pulled up on his own motorbike. Hello there, sir. What if you give a pretty short... Oh, mademoiselle. Une moto? Un moto.
Oui, un moto.
Un moto.
Mm. Je t'aime.
Okay. It's
Je t'aime.
ouais, okay. I'm not sure what to do now. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. That's great. Thanks ever so much.
Je t'aime. Je t'aime. Je t'aime.
Okay, I think we need to be off now. So,
Je t'aime. Je t'aime.
oh God, bloody French! All I ever get from the French. This is always a bloody same.
Je t'aime.
Right, we're off now. We'll close the video now, and we'll just crack on a little bit, shall we? And get out of it. I'm just going to get on the bike and ride off now. Thanks for watching the video, and see you in the next one.